Welcome to the newest episode of Beatin' and Bangin'. I'm your host, Kyle Dalton. We've got a ton to cover from the weekend in Las Vegas, including some funny and serious comments from Joey Logano, some interesting remarks from Kyle Busch on his recommended changes to NASCAR, plus his Xfinity Series broadcast debut, Denny Hamlin hitting it big in Sin City, Gibbs flipping, and of course that race with Josh Berry earning his first Cup Series win. However, before we get to that, I want to go back to Friday and a special edition of Behind the Wheel with Joey Logano from the win in Las Vegas. If you've ever listened to Logano's show on Sirius XM NASCAR Radio, he typically talks about his race weekend and sometimes ventures into things he's got going on in his personal life. This was nothing like that. Instead, it featured the three-time champion working with co-host Alex Weaver and sounding off on a variety of topics, including Christopher Bell's recent success.
Yeah, he's underrated for sure. And I think, I don't know exactly why that is. He's a pretty quiet guy.
Very quiet.
And he's become a little bit more outspoken, which I think will kind of make him, right? And here's the thing I'm starting to wonder. Now, you win 3 races in a row. Where's the booze? When did the booze come, right? Like, everyone hates a winner,
That's true.
Like, when's it going to happen? Because, he's never really given anyone a reason to hate him up to this point. Now he's won too much. So you're going to get booed now.
Yeah.
I would think. Maybe.
Interesting point, but after Sunday's race, Bell doesn't have to worry about that. But Logano wasn't done. He also had his Penske teammate Ryan Blaney on as a guest where they bantered back and forth while Blaney played a round of golf with Bubba Wallace. But there was one particular exchange between the two teammates that A, was hilarious, and B, caught my attention.
I'm going to talk to Ryan about
You want to
Vegas,
talk
about Sunday.
Oh, okay.
So
are you going to ask him if he's not going to miss a gear and blow his motor up again this week?
Ouch.
Dude, just because you went below the yellow line and you cheated last week doesn't mean you can take shots at me. Come on.
Funny stuff. But I have to admit, hearing Logano suggest that Blaney missed a gear that caused his engine to fail was pretty eye-opening. Is that really what happened? I hadn't seen that reported anywhere else, so I don't know if that was true or not, but the fact that he brought it up leads me to believe that the drivers discussed it at some point. Things that make you go, Moving on to media availabilities, and Logano once again makes an appearance because he was asked about the driver approval process after what happened the week before in Phoenix with Catherine Legg causing a wreck that took out Daniel Suarez.
I think there's got to be more structure around it. I think we're pretty just willy-nilly with it on, whether you've raced in the last 10 years or not, or what did you race? It might be a better question. Right? You look at, there's a balance in here somewhere of what makes sense, but when you look at F1, it's really like for anyone to get a license to race there, I don't know if any of us are qualified, nor should we be, because we've never driven anything like that, right? I don't think it'd be right to throw me in an F1 race and without racing one before and giving me 20 minutes of practice. Yeah, I'm going to be in the way, right? Because I don't know what the heck I'm doing. The same thing for them, though, right? If you've never driven a stock car, should you just jump in a cup car with 20 minutes of practice and line up and race? There's a line between entertainment and safety. Not only for that particular driver, but us that race here every week. For the rest of the drivers out there in pit crews that are jumping out in front of these cars, playing in traffic, right? There's got to be a line in there somewhere. A little bit of structure behind it would be nice, saying that maybe you got to run the Xfinity race or a couple other different types of races. I'm sure they don't want to put too much structure behind it because every situation is a little bit different. But at the same time, I think there's got to be some marks you have to hit before you get approved into a cup race.
A short time later, Kyle Busch visited with reporters and was asked the same question. I want you to listen to his answer, especially what he said in the end when mentioning the Austin Cindric penalty.
I don't have a great answer. I feel like I've questioned the approval process for a long, long time, being an owner in the truck series and seeing some young drivers get opportunities at different tracks versus my drivers that I was trying to get them opportunities at some of those same tracks getting denied. So I was very confused, and probably am even more confused now on how it all works. So I think it's broken. I think there's a lot of work that could be done to make it better. I also do feel as though it shouldn't be suit and ties making the decisions always. Certainly there can be some that need to be involved, but I do feel like there needs to be fire suits involved in some of those decision-making processes on those that need to be approved or not approved for various activities. And I'll even go so far to say, too, that I feel the same way on driver penalties, the Austin Cindric deal. I don't think suit and ties should be making that. I think you should get penalized by your peers.
Penalized by your peers. I thought about this for a while, and I was thinking that maybe they have a 3-driver panel elected by the drivers that rules on these decisions. Or maybe the drivers have their own set of penalties that they all agree on beforehand, like a right hook is a right hook and intent is all that matters. This is the penalty for it. It's black and white, but as you heard last week, Denny Hamlin believed one thing one week and a different thing the next. Honestly, I doubt it would ever happen because I don't think NASCAR would relinquish control for this kind of thing. But it sure does make you wonder about the possibilities. Moving on to another news item that I wrote about on Saturday for Athlon Sports, and that was Denny Hamlin hitting the $126,000 jackpot in a casino. The Joe Gibbs Racing driver posted a video on his Instagram sharing the big moment from Friday night. But that wasn't the end of the story. Incredibly, Hamlin hit multiple additional jackpots the next night for a grand total of $330,000 in winnings for the weekend. If you'll recall, he also won $50,000 in 2022 after the championship in Phoenix in a $2 billion Powerball, matching 5 of 6 numbers. Later on Saturday was the Xfinity Series race, and 2024 champion Justin Allgaier finally broke through and won his first race in 2025. But the bigger story for me was Kyle Busch making his Xfinity Series broadcast debut on the CW. Honestly, I vaguely remember him working a couple of Truck Series races with his brother Kurt on FS1 a few years ago. I wasn't sure what to expect, but I have to say when Rowdy hangs up the helmet for a final time, whenever that is, he certainly will have a job lined up in the broadcast booth with some network. He was absolutely fantastic at describing the action and providing insightful information to the viewing audience. Whether it was his description of the racing lines, the drivers and their decisions, or a variety of other race-related topics, Busch sounded like he'd been doing it for years. And quite honestly, I hope he gets more chances to work in the broadcast booth this season because he was that good and added some flavor to the broadcast. Later on Saturday night, there was some more racing action on the Las Vegas Motor Speedway property at the dirt track. And it was an interesting lineup for the high limits racing to say the least. Christopher Bell was supposed to make his debut in Friday night's session, but it was rained out. He didn't race on Saturday night for an interesting reason. Take a listen.
Yeah, so Joe Gibbs Racing has been, really good about it, and the management group, they would allow me to run, and I think Ty's going to run on Saturday night. But our individual team, the 20 team, Adam and I sat down, and we both have come up with a mutual decision to not run on Saturdays. And I think some of it is the fact that we're on the West Coast, and if I were to bang my head up a little bit or, crash, it would be harder to get a driver here to fill that void. I don't know if it would be different once we get to the East Coast, but as of right now, we're going to stay away from Saturdays. And the Gibbs management group, that's not on them. They're allowing me to pick and choose my races wisely, and that's strictly between myself and Adam.
That actually makes sense. As he mentioned, Ty Gibbs made his high limits debut and it went well, or at least it did early when he actually qualified for the A main. Unfortunately, that excitement was short-lived as the 22-year-old didn't even make it through a lap before he went tumbling down the backstretch. I didn't see it live, but when I first saw the highlight, all I could think was Joe Gibbs has to be seeing this and reconsidering his decision to let his drivers compete in non-NASCAR races. Thankfully, Gibbs was okay and walked away after the incident. And that takes us to Sunday. Once again, Kyle Busch caught my attention, but this time for something funny he did in the pre-race show. Watch the right side of the screen as he walks up behind Clint Boyer.
He's won the last 5 races for Joe Gibbs Racing. They have been, like you said, the opposite of Joey Logano. Things have just all went their way.
Yeah, in reference to a championship, it's interesting.
Did you see what he did? He autographed Boyer's jacket without him even knowing it. What's even funnier is this isn't the first time Busch has done a sneaky autograph prank. He did it back in 2022 to his former JGR teammate, Denny Hamlin, when he signed his fire suit. Unfortunately for Busch, that smile he had on his face wouldn't continue once the green flag waved. And that takes us to Sunday's race. Joey Logano, who started on the outside of row 1 for a second consecutive week, got out to the lead on lap 2 and led the next 29 laps. His Penske teammate, Ryan Blaney, had to start from the back of the field after crashing in practice and not making a qualifying run. Also showed he had some speed. In those first 19 laps, the number 12 car had gone from 36th to 20th. Conversely, Ty Gibbs, who started 29th, languished in the 30s during the early laps and was about to be lapped by the number 22 car before the Penske car made the first pit stop of the day. And that's when things got interesting. Gibbs' JGR teammate Chase Briscoe was the first red flag of the day, when the number 19 lost a wheel coming off pit road. It was the first of many on the day. So with Gibbs struggling and Briscoe losing a wheel, Denny Hamlin got in on the JGR fun when he sped on pit road. But he had company. Kyle Busch did the same, and his team was not happy with NASCAR about it.
What the fuck is that? I'm getting nothing up here. Fucking ridiculous. Where is section 7 and what was the number? Saying 50.19. I'll get you the pit boxes. Hold on. It's where the 11, 41, and 5 are pitted. It's the section just before start-finish line. That's insane. I never saw a blue light the whole time down pit road.
While JGR was struggling, Hendrick Motorsports was not. Closing out that first stage, Austin Cindric got the stage win, and he was followed by Alex Bowman, Chase Elliott, Bubba Wallace, and Kyle Larson. During the stage break, Kyle Busch had more to say about his speeding penalty.
So fucking lost. I'll just guess and good luck. Yeah, it makes no sense why we were over in that one section, because like Derek said, you were 49, 60, 70 the rest of the way.
While the HMS cars got off to a good start, their troubles started in that second stage. Actually, during the break, when Chase Elliott got nabbed for speeding, and Alex Bowman reported a vibration and had to come back down pit road. Once on the track, Kyle Larson took the lead from Bubba Wallace on lap 101. Unfortunately for Kyle Busch, his rough start to the day only got worse when he was the next victim of a loose wheel. Except his came while running full speed and caused him to crash into the outside wall before his wheel came flying off and rolling down the track. The loose wheel issue hit numerous teams during the race, and I was wondering to myself, why? I actually reached out to Jeff Cordero, who has been on this channel and previously worked with Kyle Busch and is the front tire changer for two-time Daytona 500 winner William Byron. He said the rash of loose wheels was due to Las Vegas being the first pit stop heavy race of the year and the first real opportunity for pit crews to show the speed they've been working on all off season. So teams were pushing to get all they could, knowing you have to go fast or you're going to get passed on pit road. As a result, mistakes were made. Lots of them, including Christopher Bell's team, which had a loose wheel, but the number 20 car stopped in another JGR pit box to get his wheel tightened. The team was penalized for pitting outside of its box and sent to the rear of the field. But that was a much less severe penalty than losing a wheel and being held for 2 laps. Something else I noticed during that stage, Josh Berry was running inside the top 10, and I thought it was noteworthy, and I had planned on mentioning it because I remembered I'd made the same note last week at Phoenix, but forgot to mention it after the race. Mr. Berry gave me another reminder a little later. Kyle Larson went on to win that second stage and was followed by William Byron, Ross Chastain, Bubba Wallace, and Carson Hocevar. In that third and final stage on lap 195, there was a big accident involving multiple cars. It happened when the cars got 4 wide and it appeared that Christopher Bell moved up the track. At least that's what Ryan Blaney thought.
Who fucking caused that, Tibby? Was it my fault? It's tight. I can't tell. If you want replay, I'm looking at it right now, Ryan. I mean, we were 3 wide. We had 2 out, 1 in. I'm as close as I can get to the 20, so I don't know. The fucking 20 apparently just shoves it through the middle. doesn't have any regard for anybody, apparently. I don't know. Whatever.
Blaney changed his tune and took the blame a little later in his interview with Jamie Little. In the remaining laps, it was going to come down to strategy, both tire and fuel, and who would be pitting when to do what. Then everything changed when Noah Gragson got into the wall with 25 laps to go and brought out the caution. On the restart with 19 to go, Daniel Suarez lined up on the inside of row 1 with Josh Berry on his outside. On that first trip around the 1.5-mile circuit, Ross Chastain gave his Trackhouse teammate a nice bump that pushed him into the lead and clear of the number 21 car. For the next several laps, the two cars battled side by side. With 14 laps to go, the storied Wood Brothers car moved out in front and never looked back. Berry, who had previously won twice in Vegas in the Xfinity Series, did it again in the Cup Series for his first career win. It was undoubtedly a feel-good story and one that was popular with the fans and in the garage. And here's some crazy stats for you to think about. Josh Berry has more wins in 2025 than all of Team Penske, 2311 Trackhouse Racing, and Richard Childress Racing combined. And he has more wins than Joey Logano has top 10s. And now I have to do this because it was so glaring, but I first want to mention how I have not said a word about Fox's NASCAR coverage to start the season. Trust me, I've seen what you've seen, but on Sunday it was too much to overlook. It started moments after Berry crossed the finish line and got out of his car when Mike Joy said this.
The 19th different driver to win at Las Vegas. Previous best finish 4th last week in Phoenix.
Berry did in fact finish 4th last week in Arizona. However, it wasn't anywhere close to his best career finish. Last year with Stewart-Haas Racing, he scored a pair of third-place results at New Hampshire and Darlington in the spring. In 2023, he subbed for Chase Elliott at Hendrick Motorsports and did one better, finishing runner-up at Richmond behind Kyle Larson. But Fox wasn't done. This is how Chris Myers ended the broadcast.
Expectations heading into today, but it wasn't their day, it was Josh's.
Yep, Josh Bell, his day in the sun in Vegas.
Listen, I get it. He had Christopher Bell on his mind because he had won 3 in a row. But having it on your mind and voicing it to close out the broadcast are two very different things. And as you guys know, these are just the 2 mistakes I'm mentioning. This doesn't include other mistakes, horrible camera angles that are zoomed in, and missing good battles being described on the air, or other things I've talked about in the past. Just Fox doing its standard subpar Fox broadcast. All right, guys, that's all for today's episode. We covered a lot, and I want to get your thoughts. Let's go back to Friday and the friendly banter between Joey Logano and Ryan Blaney. Do you think there was some truth in Logano's remarks about Blaney missing his shift and blowing his engine? I do. Moving on to Logano and Kyle Busch's remarks on the driver approval process, and more specifically, what Busch had to say about less suits and ties being involved with decisions. Agree or disagree? Sticking with Busch, if you watched Saturday's Xfinity Series race, what did you think of Busch's work in the booth? Moving on to Sunday and the race. Were you surprised by all the pit road mistakes? And what did you think of the move by the number 20 team to pit in another JGR team's box? Heads up move, if you ask me. And what did you think about Josh Berry getting his first Cup Series win? Are there more to come this season? And finally, I'm curious to hear your thoughts on Fox's coverage this season. I haven't asked yet, so let me hear what you think. All right, guys, thanks again for checking out the latest episode and supporting the channel. As always, I truly appreciate it and hope you have a great rest of your day.